So, for this week's Themes to Be Heard segment, we're going to be talking about the 1999 music video for Learn to Fly by the Foo Fighters, and I cannot believe it is already that old. I remember when that video first came out.
I remember when this video came out, and okay, so there's a lot of times where videos like this will come out, or songs like this will come out, and they'll get played so much that you're sick of them for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are so many songs that if they play from the 90s, that if they play now, I don't even want to hear them because they got played so much when they were first out. This song got played a lot, and I'm still not sick of it. I don't think I could be.
They, at this time, were making really good music videos, and I'll never get tired of watching this music video. It's hilarious.
All of their music videos have been really good.
Yeah. But a little about the song. So, Learn to Fly was the lead single from the Foo Fighters' third studio album called There Is Nothing Left to Lose.
Great album.
It was their first song to enter the Billboard Hot 100, surprisingly.
What? No way.
Yeah, it peaked at number 19.
So, Everlong, The Pretender, none of that.
Wasn't The Pretender after this?
I thought The Pretender was on an earlier album.
No, I think that was after.
Oh.
It was their first number one on Billboard's Modern Rock chart, and it set the record for most weeks at number one on Canadian rock charts. It was number one for 13 weeks. The single is certified gold in Canada and Italy, not in the U.S., surprisingly.
Also, the song itself holds the record for most individual musicians, according to there was a
Yeah, see, Nick said The Pretender was much later, early 2000s.
What? It sounds earlier. They really they do a good job of making themselves sound like whenever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there was a Guinness Book of World Record breaking thing where it was 1,000 people met at a football stadium and all were playing sheet music for Learn to Fly at the same time. So, like, the Guinness Book of World Records for event with the most individual musicians, all the musicians were playing Learn to Fly.
I think it was in another country, too, right? Because they were trying to get the Foo Fighters to come join them, and eventually they did. But it took a little while.
Before we get into the video itself, if you don't know who the Foo Fighters are, then you got some catching up to do. But also, Dave Grohl, original drummer for Nirvana, but also it just kind of floats around in like Hollywood stuff, comedians, and he makes his own like fun projects.
He's the type of person that gets along with everybody, and he knows so much, and like they do so many like I remember when he was the Record Store Day ambassador a few years ago, in the early like 2010s, he made a documentary called Sound City, which is excellent. If you've never seen Sound City, definitely check it out. He make another documentary, or I don't know.
I don't know if he definitely, and we'll get into this, but he's done a lot. Well, not just him, but all the members of the Foo Fighters have done a lot of musical work with Tenacious D and other acts.
Yeah, but
they don't take themselves too seriously.
This past year, the Foo Fighters, he was the final drummer for Nirvana.
Well, duh.
But this year for Record Store Day, the Foo Fighters put out a Bee Gees cover album. They also have a horror movie in the works that's coming out early next year. He wrote an autobiography this year. They were recently inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame.
Just like last month?
So, yeah, like, Dave Grohl has just been, like, everywhere lately.
And right now, this month.
Oh, yeah.
Every other week, or is it every other?
It's every night. The 8 nights of Hanukkah.
So, For 8 nights, he's putting out a new video covering a different song.
Him and the producer of the Foo Fighters.
Right.
They're doing, like, cover songs of Jewish artists. Like, the first one they did was Stay by Lisa Loeb. And they recreated the video, but then they turned it into, like, this metal
super
song.
Heavy black metal portions of it.
Um,
But it's just Dave's face superimposed onto Lisa Loeb most of the time.
But then the quieter scenes, and he's singing more high-pitched, and he's wearing a dress and the glasses.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't even think it's him. I think it's his face just superimposed on the original video.
No, in the original video, Lisa Loeb wore a plain black dress.
Oh, okay.
And
it's just ridiculous anyway. No matter what.
They've covered, like, Jump by Van Halen. They did Amy Winehouse the other night. His daughter, Willow, actually was singing the song.
Like I said, they've all been studio musicians or somehow helped out musically with all of Tenacious D's act, which actually they are all at some point show up in Tenacious D's The Pick of Destiny in different scenes.
Because wasn't Dave Grohl Satan?
He is the devil. Yeah.
But yeah, so they've always made these funny videos. Like, I remember the first Foo Fighters video I saw. It was I think it was Big Me. It was the Mentos parody.
Yes.
That was the first time I saw them, and I didn't know it was, because this was like when they were first coming out, and I had no idea it was, the drummer from Nirvana.
You know the first time I ever saw the Foo Fighters? It was very early 90s. And I was watching Beavis and Butthead with Greg and Kenitha. And the Everlong video came on while Beavis and Butthead were watching videos.
Oh.
That was the first, and I distinctly remember it, and it's the first thing I ever remember of the Foo Fighters is Beavis and Butthead. Oh, these guys rule.
But, yeah, speaking of Everlong, when this video starts, like, we're getting the setup of the video. It's Jack Black and Kyle Gass from Tenacious D, and they have some marijuana.
No, I don't know it, because it says
like a
erotic sleeping powder.
Yeah, but they're trying to hide it on the plane, and you hear this elevator music, and it's actually it's the Everlong elevator version.
I didn't even recognize it until she pointed, because we had watched the beginning of the video probably 2 or 3 times just trying to get ready to start taking notes, and she was like, "Oh my god, that's Everlong." And I was like, "What's Everlong?" And she was like, "The elevator music." And I had to listen to it a couple times, but once I picked it up, I was like, "Oh wow, that's funny." I wonder if they were actually playing that on set, like, for playback.
I don't know.
Because that's funny.
But this video was directed by someone named Jesse Peretz. In the 90s, there was a band called the Lemonheads. I remember them because I think my older brother was a fan of that band, but Jesse Peretz was actually a founding member of the Lemonheads, and he started making music videos back then. I think he actually made a few, like he did the Mrs. Robinson video for the Lemonheads. He does a lot of TV episodes too, like for New Girl and Nurse Jackie. He directed Our Idiot Brother. He seems to work with Zooey Deschanel a lot. They must be good friends. But so he directed this video, and it won a Grammy in 2000 for Best Short Form Video.
Which it totally should.
Yeah. He also directed the Popular video by Nada Surf. You know that song?
That sounds really familiar, but I can't.
And I remember this. I remember when Jimmy Fallon came out with his first comedy album, and I saw him making the video for his video called Idiot Boyfriend. And that video has Zooey Deschanel in it, so I don't know, they must be like really friendly or something, but he's directed 4 Foo Fighters videos, and this video in particular is like a parody of the Airplane movies from the 70s. Like, airplane or like disaster movies like Airport 1975 and Airport 77. And so we get the members of Tenacious D, and at this time the Foo Fighters were just Dave Grohl, Nate Mendel, and Taylor Hawkins.
That's all.
At this particular time. Because by then, I think Pat Smear had already
left.
Yep. And so Nate Mendel was in a band called Sunny Day Real Estate, I believe. And so they got him. And then Taylor Hawkins, of course, was working with Alanis Morissette, but he wanted to be more part of a band, not just drumming for a solo artist.
And it's funny because they all met, and the story that, because were you there when we listened to that interview? I heard that interview on YouTube where he's like, if it wasn't for the You Oughta Know video, Dave and I would have never met because he just happened to be there checking it out. And then they were all talking and everybody was friendly. There was nothing about like making his own band because Dave was still like kind of getting his stuff all together.
Well, when Dave Grohl like first started making the music, it was just him. Yep. He was like writing all the songs in his house and playing all the instruments and stuff like that, and he didn't want to release the music under his name because he knew people would be like, oh, that's just the guy from Nirvana. So yep. He called the project the Foo Fighters, and then of course he like knew all these like musicians and stuff. And,
well, Foo Fighters being World War II slang for alien spacecraft.
Which is funny too because Dave Grohl is a big B-52s fan. He recently came out with a list of like his top 10 albums of all time, and the B-52s are in his top 10.
Yep. So they throw the drugs in the coffee maker, and then they leave, and all the people on the plane drink the coffee except for the actual Foo Fighters. So we have this heavyset family, and then we have Nate Mendel just being tiny, and he's like a nerdy guy who has to sit between the heavyset family. We have a teenage girl played by Dave Grohl.
That's the thing we forgot to mention. So all the band members play all these different characters.
And themselves.
I crack up just even seeing stills of this movie. But it's a very simple concept, a very simple song too. Like Dave Grohl was recently did an interview with Kelly Clarkson. What's her name? Kelly Clark from American Idol.
Kelly Clarkson.
But she was like reciting the lyrics back to him and like, this is how I see it, like this is what it means to me, and he's like, I hate to burst your bubble, but this is like the most straightforward song. I really wanted to be a pilot at this time, and I wrote a song about how I wanted to learn how to fly. And she's like dissecting these lyrics, like you've got the light and the dart.
I didn't know that, and it's great.
He's like, oh, I'm gonna burst your bubble, but it's really a song about how I wanted to learn how to fly.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, so as you can see from the pictures, like oh gosh, it's so good. They have such a good sense of humor.
And in every video.
Yeah.
In every video. Like you were just talking about the Big Me.
Yeah.
And that's another one that like you watch it and you're like, these guys are so damn funny.
Yeah. But so yeah, everyone on the plane is
they start hallucinating, and
except the young girl, she kind of just disappears.
Well, okay,
so she's in love with Dave Grohl, and like she sees him on the plane, and she's like, she has these like braids and braces, and she's like, oh my god. And then she asks him for his autograph, and she's sitting there
licking her braces. She's like, There's a lot of Dave Grohl licking the front of his teeth in this video.
Like this scene, she looks over and the guy's head turns into a hamburger.
But the only the only people not drinking on the plane are the actual Foo Fighters.
Yeah, because they are
the,
drinking.
The only people not drinking the coffee, they're actually drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
They look like they're drinking what looks like gin and tonics.
Mm-hmm.
Which, hey, if you're on a plane, good G&T, that's a way to chill out.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone else has had the coffee and they're all losing their minds.
Including the pilots.
Mm-hmm.
So the pilots start... Which actually, it's really funny when the one pilot, he's flying and he looks out the window and he sees the flight attendant with the tray of coffee looking from the outside of the plane in.
Yeah.
That's a good bit.
Because there's just little moments like Dave Grohl has he'll just blink and it's really funny. Like he has these really priceless facial expressions. But
people that listen on Spotify.
They must have had so much fun.
People that listen on Spotify to this week are going to hate us. They're going to be like, yeah, they just laugh the whole time. But yeah, the video is absolutely hilarious, and you can watch all their... Like, we could just make a series out of Foo Fighters videos.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't even be fair to anybody else. And then at the end, you get Tenacious D... And the air marshals arrest Tenacious D and walk him into the cockpit of the the plane, and they're all doing this goofy.
It reminds me of Wayne's World. They're just excellent.
Well, but before they even bring Tenacious D in there, the one is like, "Oh, you got a little something on your," and they're like, "Ha ha ha!" And they have this super goofy laugh.
Oh, gosh.
We watched it 3 times, and right in a row. I just rewound it, and it was still funny every time.
So entertaining.
Highly recommend. It's on YouTube. Watch it as many times as you feel is necessary. But that is our themes to be heard. Foo Fighters Learn to Fly.
Mm-hmm.